Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a new environmental policy in Meghalaya, India, called the Green Deposit Scheme. Now, on the surface, it's meant to fight plastic pollution in some really popular tourist spots. But the big question we're asking is it a real solution or is it just for show?
So let's kick things off with this one question because it really gets right to the heart of the whole issue. This quote, it pretty much sets the stage for everything we are about to unpack. Okay, so on the surface, this green deposit scheme, which launched in late 2023, seems like a fantastic and pretty straightforward idea. The goal is simple. It's noble. Let's tackle the massive problem of plastic waste in some of the state's most beautiful areas. And here's how it's supposed to work for tourists. It's designed to be super simple, to encourage good behavior. You show up at a gorgeous waterfall with, say, a plastic water bottle. You pay a 100 rupee deposit. You go about your day, and when you're leaving, you toss that bottle into a special bin, show some proof, and boom, you get your money back. Easy, right? And the stated goal here is pretty admirable. Officials say it's all about discouraging littering and pushing that leave no trace mindset. They frame it as part of this bigger move towards community sanitation, and it's all supposedly in line with court orders to ban single-use plastics. Sounds perfect. But, and you knew there was a but coming, when you look just a little bit closer, the entire system starts to look like it's built on a very, very shaky foundation. There's a huge piece of the puzzle that just seems to be missing from the official story. And this gets us to the most critical question of all. What happens after a tourist does their part and chucks their bottle into that designated bin? The scheme is great at getting people to collect their plastic, but collection is only step one. Where does it all go from there? Well, according to a government audit report from 2024, this is the percentage of municipal waste in Meghalaya that gets dumped in landfills with zero processing. None. 98%. So here it is, the big catch. This scheme doesn't actually create any new recycling or processing facilities. It's just a really clever front door that leads right back to the same old broken system. All that properly disposed plastic just gets loaded onto a truck and taken to the very same landfills where everything else is already being dumped, completely untreated. And that total lack of processing facilities, as big of a problem as that is, it's really just the beginning. The cracks in this plan run so much deeper. The issues go way beyond just infrastructure. First, think about the enforcement. It's a nightmare. How can you possibly monitor thousands of tourists to check if they've disposed of their waste correctly? Second, it feels a lot like tokenism. It only applies to a handful of tourist spots while ignoring the big cities. And finally, you've got this really obvious double standard. And this just shows the contradiction perfectly. Tourists get penalized for bringing in a plastic bottle, a bottle they very often just bought from a local vendor right outside the gate. Meanwhile, those vendors are selling thousands of plastic packaged items at the exact same site with absolutely no penalty. It just doesn't add up. This whole pattern of attacking the symptom, the tourist with a bottle, instead of the real cause, the unchecked sale of plastics and the total lack of waste processing, well, it's a classic example of what policy experts call performative environmentalism. It's all about creating the appearance of action. It's for an audience, for tourists and the media. It's about doing things that look good instead of doing the hard, often unglamorous work of creating real, structural change behind the scenes. It's about looking green without actually being green. And this strategy gets really clear when you put the visible actions next to the invisible inaction. On one side, you've got these highly photogenic things, the deposit scheme, AI robots cleaning a lake, marketing a village as Asia's cleanest. But on the other side, away from the cameras, is the reality. 98% of waste is just dumped, there are no processing plants, and those single-use plastic bans, they're completely ignored in the local markets. So, if this scheme isn't really the answer, what kind of questions should we be asking to find a real one? We've got to stop focusing on the symptoms and start thinking about the actual disease. This leads us to a much more direct and probably much more effective question. Why not just go straight to the source? Instead of charging tourists for a bottle they probably just bought nearby, why not just require those vendors to sell things in biodegradable packaging instead? Banning the sale seems a lot more effective than trying to police the disposal. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Is the goal of this scheme to genuinely protect the environment, or is it just to make tourists pay for a starring role in a carefully staged piece of environmental theater?